My friends, there are moments of television history that I think our grandchildren will remember. There's the moon landing. There was the fall of the Berlin Wall, and then for a while, there was nothing until last night. James, did you see the same finale that I saw?
I frickin' did. I was on the edge of my seat all 3 hours. I can't believe what Ari did. It was insane. Look, he told both of them that he loved them. I cannot. I was watching it. I was, like I said, on the edge of my seat. I had the chips and the dip, and I was eating it. And he had 2 women that he had to choose from, and he chose the wrong one. The wrong one. It was the most dramatic season finale of The Bachelor I have ever seen. Ever.
The Bachelor? I thought you were talking about Riverdale.
Riverdale? The Bachelor was the only finale in Canada last night. So what else are we going to talk about today?
That is true. I guess we could talk about the extremely bootleg version of Star Wars Rebels that we got to watch. Thank you so much, Disney XD, for making it super available to all of your friends up here in the Great White North. But we'll
see it next week. I'll let you guys know. But shout out to Hi-X Ghost and Austin Scherf for sending links our way so we could watch the 90-minute finale of Rebels somehow.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, that's we really appreciate that. Otherwise, we'd still be twiddling our thumbs waiting for it to hit our TV screens. But we saw it, and now here we are for the final episode of I Rebel. And I want to show you guys something. This is my notebook. I'm sure you've seen me flipping through it over the past year. And this is the first page where I started talking about Rebels. And look at how far we have come. And we are finally here at the end of all things.
Page 4.
With last night. Page 3. So we got, let's start with A Fool's Hope. That is episode 414. This was beautiful. This was the kind of final Rebel versus Imperial fight that I wanted to see on this show. What I loved about it was the idea that we've made all these friends over the years, and now they're all going to be right there on the front lines with us, helping us out. I remember Avatar: The Last Airbender did the same thing. You know, we get to the finale and they make you think, hey, remember all those little one-shot episodes in like season 1 where they would like meet a farmer and make friends with that farmer? Well, that farmer is coming back and he's helping them, because that's what friends do. They help each other out. And that was beautiful to see that happen again on Rebels. Did you love that as much as I did?
I hated it, every second of it. It was fantastic. Like we said, we had to watch it after everybody down in the United States got to see it, and we had the links coming, and everybody was like, it's so good, it's so good. And I was like, well, this is not going to live up to what I'm hearing now. And it totally did. Like you said, everybody came back. We got Vizago back, Hondo. Shout out Den Allen. Hondo is now my new favorite Star Wars character. I want a black series of him. I want a book of him, a video game of him, underwear of him, t-shirts of him, hats of him, comic books of him, and everything else you can think of for Hondo. He was fantastic in these episodes. And, oh, by the way, we're going to do spoilers on this episode, on all these episodes. He doesn't die. No,
he's kicking. He's alive and well.
No one did. No,
and he almost steals the show in this episode.
Yeah. Totally.
That's what happens when you get somebody like Jim Cummings on board. He's not gonna fool around. He's gonna give it his all. And we got to see the Hondo that I think we've wanted to see ever since we knew, in Clone Wars, that he wasn't such a bad guy. We knew that this was coming, that he was going to be a hero in some way, shape, or form, and he was. He stood up for Ezra, he stood up for the Ghost Crew, and he stood up for his little Ugnaught pal, whose name I always forget, Breach or something like that. Merch. Yeah, something weird. There was also, I loved seeing this. There was a nice subtle reference to the Thrawn novel. We always talk about how we love it when canon acknowledges that canon exists. And I don't think anybody does that better than you, Mr. Dave Filoni. And the cowboy hat really is responsible for so much of the goodness that we get in canon. Because when we got that scene early on where Ryder Azadi calls Governor Price, and they have that conversation, and they bring up the fact that she usurped him as governor. We saw that happen in the book.
Yep.
That was what the first half of the book was all about. And I was so happy and so thrilled that they called that to attention. I was like, yes, that's all you need. And it just made me think back to the movies and stuff. That's how they should integrate stuff like that. You don't need Ray to turn to the audience and say, kids, for more information on my adventures, read blah, blah, blah. We don't need that. But when you have these little lines of dialogue that get your imagination going, like when Lando Calrissian says, somebody must have heard about my maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. There you go. If that had been a book beforehand, we all would have stood up and clapped in the theater and been like, yeah, the Battle of Tanab, we heard about that maneuver. So this little conversations like this between Azadi and Dorinda Price, this goes to show just how far you can go with canon without having to do a whole lot of work. And I think the best example I can think of that was back in Celebration when we watched the premiere of season 4. Do you remember what got the biggest audience reaction in that theater?
No, I actually don't.
It was the moment when Bo-Katan stepped onto the screen.
Yes.
And that, I remember being in the theater and looking around. I'm like, wow, Bo-Katan got the biggest round of applause out of anything here.
That was in the trailer. That was in the trailer.
Yeah, and when they showed us the clip beforehand, and I was like, oh my god, that's just Satine's sister. She was in 2 episodes, but everybody in this theater recognized her from those 2 episodes, and they cared that Filoni cared enough to bring her back. So I hope I hope some folks from Story Group or Kathleen or somebody kind of read the room that day and noticed that, hey, all these people reacted so strongly to friggin' Bo-Katan. I hope that gives them an incentive to do stuff like this in the future.
Oh, totally. But no one does this better than Dave Filoni, like you said. We're going to do a video on Filoni in a little bit. But we're going to talk about the next episode, and the way he just weaves things through, and every single thing they do on this show for the past 4 years served a purpose, and it played out in a big way in the finale, where you're like, a forgettable episode. Not forgettable. In fact, Rob on this channel, I think he stopped watching Rebels because of an episode that gets referenced right in the finale. So, look, man, he's a master storyteller. He learned from George Lucas, who, I don't care what you say, is a master storyteller. His dialogue might not be masterful, but his storytelling, weaving plots in and out, always remembering back to it's the little things. There's attention to detail. What we talk about, even with, I know you love it, the Battlefront game, though, the attention to detail that they have on it, it's miraculous. And then, there are other things that the attention to detail does not seem to be there, but Filoni gets it, and he crushes it every time, and he loves the material, he respects the material, and he understands it. And so when we did it for the Patreons that watched it, we did our preview show yesterday, and we talked about just how he understands everything and how he works it. And that's just, nobody does it better than him.
He is so wizard, Andy. He really is. I wanna read out here. I wrote down a list of all the allies that were in this episode helping out the Ghost Crew. So we got Ryder Azadi, we got Hondo Onaka, we got Hondo's Ugnaught, whose name kept escaping me. We got Vizago from all the way back in episode 1.
Yeah. We
got Ketsu Onyo. We got Mart. We got Jai Kell. We got Callus, Rex, Wolf, Gregor. The only ingredient we're missing, James, is Mr. AP5.
Yeah, which we talked about on our preview show. Is he going to show up? I think both of us were torn on it. Well, I think he's on Yavin.
I think you're right. Yeah, he's probably chilling out with 3PO and R2 and Mon Mothma there. And
look,
maybe Draven's giving him crap for something.
The other thing is, what purpose would he serve on this mission on Lothal?
Yeah.
It would have been nice to see him in the epilogue at the end with when Sabine's voiceover going. She doesn't have to point him out, but just kind of say, oh, he's in the background of a shot or whatever. But whatever. I think he's on Yavin, and he was a weird character from start to finish, where he kind of showed up and he was always kind of there, but not really. Like, you could forget about him very easily if you wanted to. But then they gave him an episode where he sings in space, so I don't know. But they you could forget about him. They didn't really care if you forgot about him or not, I felt like. And he basically was one of the characters that was only there to serve the purpose of whatever episode he was in.
Yeah, he was very context sensitive that way. I was just a little, but like, you and I both love AP5, and like, this isn't a complaint. It's just more like I was a little bummed, like we didn't get to see him since the return in 2018. Like, there was last time we saw AP5 was Crawler Commandeers back right before the break. So it was, I miss the guy, and I hope he's doing well, and I hope wherever he is, he's singing his little heart out amongst the stars. Now, there were another little group of allies who helped out our crew, except these ones were shaggy and four-legged and very, very big. Now, the Loth Wolves, James, here's the thing about the Loth Wolves. Here's a question that I genuinely don't know the answer to. Why are they cool with helping when the Bendu wasn't? What's different about them?
Well, they're not the Bendu. The Bendu was the one in the middle. These, I think you speculated that these are deceased Jedi, right? Like, somehow they take that kind of form. So they're not the Bendu. They're not stuck in the middle. They are I think they're light side dominant, and they recognize the threat of the Empire, not just to them but to the inhabitants of the land. And they don't really act on it because it's not their place to act on it. But then when they come into contact with Ezra, they're like, well, I think it's kind of this understanding where if you need us, we're there for you, but don't come to us unless we're a last resort. And they were the last resort, and so Ezra went to them, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that just the look on Ezra's face when he's in that cave, and he just smirks at those troopers, and he turns on the saber. Yeah, the wolf thing, that actually surprised me. I wasn't expecting them to get into the thick of things, because I always saw the wolves. And obviously I'm incorrect now, I've proven wrong, but I always thought of the wolves as intangible, like almost like ghosts. Like, you can ride on them when they want you to, but otherwise they're, you can put your hand right through them, like they're spirits. So the fact that they were, picking up stormtroopers and like crushing their heads and their jaws, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know they could do that. So that, like, it never dawned on me in a million years that would be something that could happen, that the wolves could be charging into battle like this. And it kept looking like they were gonna just chomp Arinda Price in half. Were you feeling that? Like, I was like, she's gone, she's a goner.
I was curious how they were gonna handle that with Price, because I was like, oh, this is how she meets her end. But no, she met her end in another more fantastic way, I would say. But I think you nailed on the head that they are tangible beings, the physical form when they want to be, and in that moment they want it to be.
Yeah, and I still believe that they are tied to Lothal. Like, that wolf can't get on a ship and go to like Tatooine with them or something. Like, that's something about the ancient force energy in the planet. They're sort of like an avatar of that in a sense. That's just what I'm. And
they don't really
speculating.
They don't leave the cave area too often. Like, they're in that field, but they're not. They never go into like the cities or anything. They're always off.
Exactly.
The rim of the planet. So I agree. I think they're tied to Lothal, and it's something to do with the temple and the Jedi and some kind of the force on the planet as a whole. And maybe we'll get the answers, and maybe we don't need them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a question that I'm perfectly fine with them never answering. That's just we learn something new about the wolves, and that's always fun when we dive into the Force a little bit. But that was, in essence, a fool's hope. Like, the whole episode was just one sort of big fight for the central dome. I don't even know what it's like, a ship, but a dome, but not really a ship, but it has like boosters. I don't know what you call it, but it's where Price set up her base of operations, and now it's not her base of operations anymore, baby. Price got usurped, and now we go into the finale with the rebels in control of Lothal. Or are they? Yes, they are. Maybe. Because what happens next is the final episode, which, as you can see here, took up a whole page in this book. 415 and 416 Family Reunion, and Farewell Parts 1 and 2. My first note here is simply I wrote down, oh my god, in huge all caps. This just I'll say this before we get into the details. This is the only time ever since Return of the Jedi where a Star Wars storyteller has been able to end a story. And considering how many Star Wars stories we've gotten, I think that is a bigger deal than, like, I think we've overlooked just how big of a deal that is. And it didn't hit me until we saw that epilogue, which we'll get to, but that's when it hit me that, wow, when Star Wars ends a story, it can be friggin' powerful, man. And we so seldom allow it the chance to do that. I think that's, again, one of the reasons why I love The Last Jedi so much, is because it kind of did that in a way. But let's start at the beginning of this episode with that in mind, that this has such a unique opportunity in it that literally The Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi was the only one that had that opportunity before. So we got to see the end of Rebels, Family Reunion, and Farewell. First of all, I want to ask you this. You've gone on record saying you've been disappointed with Admiral John Thrawn and the way he's been handled on the show. Do you think, James, that this confrontation with Thrawn was a proper way for our heroes to struggle against this Grand Admiral character?
Yeah, I liked him more here because he got to kill people. Like, his plan actually kind of came through, but then, of course, the shields ended up working and blah, blah, blah. Well, it was the struggle with Thrawn is how do you show him be outsmarting everyone and successfully having a plan when people he's thwarting are the heroes of your story, and he can't do it. Even in the finale, he can't really do it. Yeah, I like the way he came in and he was like, actually, you've kind of worked your way into my hands, and now you're screwed. And I really, really like that. And then so I like the way that worked out. And if it wasn't for Ezra, learning through Kanan, his plan would have succeeded.
Yeah, it's that, to me, that whole thing of, like, when Thrawn shows up, that was perfect Thrawn for me. And, like, granted, I've only ever, my experience with Thrawn is very recent. Like, I didn't read Heir to the Empire until, like, this past year. So, but the idea of, they capture this base from Price, and it's like, yeah, we have this master plan, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna force the Empire out of here, whatever. And then Thrawn comes in and is like, actually, you just put yourself in check. So check. That, to me, is what a fight with Thrawn is like. It's him constantly putting you in check, and you're just like, oh, geez, now what?
Never checkmate. Just check.
Not a checkmate. Yeah, you're right. So it was that kind of fight where it was like, we did this, Thrawn, and Thrawn's like, yeah, that's nice. Now I do this, and they kept one-upping themselves like that. That's what I wanted to see from a Thrawn versus Rebels fight, and it did not disappoint. They threw in a lot of little cool Easter eggs with Thrawn that I liked. There is a point where he radios one of his officers on another ship, and that officer is named Captain Palion, which is the name of his best friend from the books, from Heir to the Empire, Captain Gilad Palion. He was like his main dude. He was essentially the Eli Vanto of those books, and so I was like, oh, cool, Palion got a shout out. And another thing that I thought was really cool was, not to jump ahead too much, but when everybody's favorite space creatures appeared and started doing things to Thrawn's ship, his ship is called the Chimera, which is a monster with 3 heads. It's like kind of like a 3-headed dragon, and 3 of these space whales attached themselves to the front of his ship, and there was a shot looking up at the ship with them pulling it, and it literally looked like a Chimera. So I was like, I just started clapping at my computer screen like a seal. I was like, yes, Filoni, that was so clever.
Well, computer screen, because we couldn't watch it on our TVs.
Yeah, exactly. So, because I brought them up, let's talk about them here. The space whales are back, James. Did you see that coming at all? Did you think we were getting space whales again?
Was it Mart who said not who but what? I was like, okay, what could they be talking about? And I scratched out Force Ghosts, and then Wolves I scratched out. Yeah, and then I was like, space whales. And then I was like, can they go there? And they went there. So it was like 4th or 5th on my thought process list with space whales, because honestly, there was a part of the episode where I stopped paying attention. I was like, what are they bringing to help? And then there's like a lull where they're not there. I'm like, what is coming to help? And yeah, I started thinking space whales, and I was like, oh, will they go back to it? And frickin' Filoni, man, don't count out something that you think is just a useless garbage episode, which I thought it was a good episode. But it was, at the time, you're like, filler episode. No. That is the 1,000 hands that will crush Thrawn in his defeat right there. So,
yes.
Like, it was, well played, sir. Well played.
Filoni doesn't waste a damn thing, and I love him for it. I was kind of the opposite of you. There was that scene with Mart and Wolf where Mart's like, oh, not who, but what? And during that conversation, which was very brief, I was like, oh, what are they talking about? But as soon as they cut away to what was going on in the dome, then I was just like, it was out of my head, and I was like, oh, what's going on with Ezra? What's Sabine doing? And then when that ship comes back with the Purgils, I was like, okay, all right, it's them. But yeah, you're right, we got the prophecy of the Bendu was fulfilled, 1,000 hands wrapping him in a cold embrace. And you're right, the Bendus specifically said defeat. He did not say death or demise, he said defeat. And that was Thrawn's defeat. I was, even though Filoni told us Thrawn was going to survive, I was still a little scared that he was going to get crushed, because Filoni also told us we weren't going to see the Emperor, and we all know how that turned out.
Can we just talk about the Emperor for a second?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Love his force projection of the young Sheev. Loved it. I was like, that is. And then I started to curious. I was curious too watching it. Like when he presents himself in public, is that how he appears? Like, can he make himself appear like that, or is that just purely a force projection for Ezra? Because in the Senate, obviously, in the Sith, he goes, "Look what the Jedi did to me. I'm hideous." And then in Jedi, he's wearing the cloak and looks like that. So is that just for Ezra, or does he appear to people like that when he actually makes? Because maybe he doesn't make appearances anywhere; he just kind of projects himself. So is that how he presents himself to people, so they see like a nice looking version of him? I was like, there's so many layers now. I mean, I think he's horribly disfigured because of the Jedi, and that keeps the fear of the Jedi in the galaxy. So whatever. I think it was just for Ezra, but it was a cool thing.
Well, no, you're right. That's the impression that they give in a lot of comics and novels of late. There'll just be subtle little things where somebody will talk about, like they'll be in. I think it was a comic where somebody goes in Coruscant, and there was like a hologram, sort of like a "I want you" poster, but like a moving hologram one, and it was the Emperor saying like "Join my empire," but it was Episode 3 Sheev looking Emperor before he got messed up, and the whoever the protagonist was of that comic or book was sort of saying in their inner monologue like that same hologram has been playing for 20 years. I'm sure he doesn't look that good anymore. And it's been known that he does not make public appearances often. He'll make like one every 5 years or something. So yeah, he's very reclusive. He has a public face and a private face, and it got me thinking. Like when we saw him last week in the World Between Worlds, there, Ezra, I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, Ezra never fully knew who that was. Did he? Like, that was never spelled out. Like, I'm Emperor Palpatine. Like, I think he just saw a guy in a hood who was like, I'm a Sith.
I think he had an inkling of an idea that it was because of the way he responds to him. And this one was like, I know who you really are and stuff like that. So he kind of. Right. I think what it was he didn't know, but process of elimination, he put two and two together, and he's like, well, the Emperor wants in here. There's like a Sith Lord trying to get me. That's what I think it was. But no, it's never. I don't think it was ever spelled out for him last week.
Yeah.
But this week he kind of had that. I think he was second guessing it too, because he's like, oh, maybe you weren't the guy that was coming after me last week, you know. So
yeah, and even when he pulls Ahsoka into that world, and you know, Palpatine is chasing them with the fire and everything, she never explicitly says anything. She's just like, run.
yeah.
So there's never a confirmation, but you're right. I think he kind of guessed what was happening.
Well, we didn't know then. He knows now.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved that we got that hologram. I loved that it was, you know, temptation, which is what the Emperor is all about. It was very Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you got this conflict going on, and then our hero goes up and deals with the Emperor on a more personal level. And I'm assuming, like, something in that temple thing was important to Palpatine. I'm just not sure. Like, I'm assuming, like, if Ezra had opened that door, he would have, you know, the Emperor would have got something out of it. Like, was there something in that temple that I'm just forgetting, like something important?
Well, I don't know, like, because he transported it, right? So he like, I don't know what I like that I was curious. Was it like just a way to trap Ezra in like another like realm in a way, like to kind of like encase him in something, and then maybe trick him into being his apprentice or something like that. That I wasn't. Maybe people know, if you know, comment below. But I only saw it once. It was late last night. Yeah, I don't. Because it was all about going back to his parents, and he was using his parents and the emotion of them to get him into that room. But if he transported onto the ship, I don't understand how it would have, you know what I mean, without knowing what was. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my main thing with that scene, is I wasn't 100% clear what Palpatine wanted out of that. And again, like, at first I thought, oh, you know, it's a piece of the temple, so maybe there's something in there that he needs the light side to open.
Yeah.
So he's using Ezra. But then you're right. Then I thought, well, if he brought it in that ship brick by brick, then I'm sure there was a way they could have used like dynamite or something. Like, there was a way to get in there. So the motivation of Palpatine in there was a bit puzzling to me, but just seeing him was cool. And I got goosebumps, man, when Ezra brings it down and he runs through the hologram, and as he's running through it, it starts to shimmer, and we see like his real face. Oh my God, was that ever cool?
That his animation of Dark Lord Palps looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Imperial Guards, Praetorian Guards, so good. So good.
I thought of you as soon as they walked in that room. I was like, James better have the same erection that I do right now.
I did not, but it was fantastic. But the best part of all of that was when Ezra looks back, and what does he see behind him? Dave Filoni. It's not just about lifting rocks, and he throws rocks at him. I'm like, freaking the Force always comes back to the rocks, man. And you can't tell me that was a coincidence either. I was like, rocks. It's not just about picking up rocks. It's always about picking up rocks. Always.
Not only did he pick up rocks, but did you notice the position he was in when the guards were
the Rey position,
doing their thing to him? He was totally Rey. He was bent over backward. You could like splice those two images and look like Rey and Ezra were playing Twister. So, and that was we finally got to see those royal guards do what they do best. And that, I don't know what that weapon was that they were using on Ezra.
It was one that George Lucas couldn't afford the effects for in the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Let's just wait and use this in Rebels instead. I don't think there was Force involved in that. I think that was something else, some kind of technology or something. But that was dope. I hope we see some more of those guards now.
Well,
like
we kind of
I want more
Jedi.
About them. Yeah, we kind of did. Yeah. So that was. Oh, that was beautiful.
Was awesome.
When they walked in there. That just tickled every bone in my body. Now, we also got a great closure down below with Rook, who finally lived up to his his stature as this great warrior, and who better to take him on head to head than Gerzeb Aurelios. And I think even though the fight we got was very quick and not necessarily a memorable fight, I think that the way Rook went out, I'll never forget that. I thought that was a really cool death for a villain.
I liked his death. I liked that him and Zeb. I'm glad it wasn't a long fight because I don't know. It's animation. The fights, it doesn't. For me personally, it doesn't always blow me away in animated fights. So I was like, okay, like it was just enough for me to go perfect. It was still, like his death was cool and all, but Rook as a character still would have been nice if he would have taken somebody out or had more of it, like, because he comes in, he's like, oh, he's a big threat, but he doesn't, like, to who really, like, who's he? He was never really that big. He wasn't much more than a death trooper, Like, I was like, I just wanted just a little bit more of him. But that's based on his past more than anything. The character on the show kind of served his purpose and did what he did. But yeah, his death was awesome. I like, and I like that Zeb had his little walkie at the end and said, "Oh no, we'll never talk to you again." See you.
Yeah. I think you're right. It would have been really effective if Rook had been the one who killed Gregor.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been, instead of just like a random trooper who shoots him, like if Rook's just like, I got you now. But we did lose Gregor.
Good death.
Gregor is gone.
Very good death.
Yeah, great death. That was actually a beautiful, touching moment when... Sorry, I just banged my desk here. That was a beautiful, touching moment when Rex is kind of standing over him, and he says to him, "We did it, brother. We did it." Like, the sense of camaraderie between those clones, man. I mean, we saw it so much in the Clone Wars, but it keeps carrying on, and the groups behind these cartoons made those clones fascinating, and I was just so happy with how that turned out.
And I gotta say this for everybody that hates Disney and what they've done with Star Wars. Because they canceled Clone Wars. Let's say Clone Wars keeps going and it ends, a year or two later. There's no conclusion for the clones other than they're going to turn and kill the Jedi. That's their ending.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because of Rebels, they get to come back and be like, yeah, the clones did that, but there was a few of them that removed the chip and lived their lives. And this is their and they fit it in the show. And just like Filoni was saying, I was like, I can't have Ahsoka take away from the main characters of our show because this isn't her show. It wasn't the clone show either. I mean, Rex kind of was integrated obviously more than anybody else, but it still wasn't Gregor's show. But he came in at the end. They gave him and Rex the send-off. I mean, Rex obviously is where it lives, but he still got the send-off with Gregor, and you kind of get that is the ending of the clones. That is the final moment of the Clone Wars, is right there in that moment where they're like, okay, we served, and now we've finished our duty. And Rex obviously goes on to Return of the Jedi. But in that moment, that's like, this is what they were building towards, and you wouldn't have got that if they didn't, if Clone Wars finished. It would have been great if Clone Wars finished, obviously. But we might not have gotten this moment because they would have been like, well, those guys are done. And we might not have got Ahsoka again. We might not have got Rex again. Mm-hmm. So all these great things are happening because of something that sucked. So sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. And like you just said, like 30 minutes ago, Star Wars got to end something. Filoni got to end something. And it was, and he said at Celebration, he goes, I know what it's like not to. And when you watch it, you're like, damn, that's good. Mm-hmm. He was just like, they put in care. They cared about it. They cared about finishing it. They cared about saying, hey, it's done. Maybe not entirely, but it's done.
Yeah. And we, like, the bleeding of certain characters and aspects between the two shows, that's what I want to see. Like, one of the reasons I loved Rogue One so much was because it was 75% new characters, new planets, new vehicles, and then like 25% stuff we remember that just bleeds into it. And that to me is the perfect recipe for a new Star Wars story. Is a bunch of new and a little bit of old on top for flavor.
We said it, I think it was yesterday, with Filoni and the fan service, which was what I was trying to get at a little while ago, and I lost my train of thought. But yeah, you know what? Everyone complains, oh, it's got to be new, it's got to be new, it's got to be new. But it's Star Wars. There has to be some fan service fit in it. It doesn't have to be 90% fan service, because then it's boring. But yeah, 10, 15%, 25%, like a small percentage of fan service. Kind of show me what I want to see, show me what I know. Let me realize, oh, this is the Star Wars that I love. Put that in there. It's like when you listen to your favorite band with music. Well, yeah, people that don't like them are like, all their songs sound the same, but it's the familiarity. That's what you like about it. Like, you like the sound of the lead singer's voice. You like the sound of the guitar. That's what gets you in there. So I'm completely, that's my wavelength too, and that's why Rogue One is actually my favorite of the 3 Disney Star Wars movies. It might change, who knows? But you know, those movies are like. But that's the thing, though. It's like it's the movie itself is a fan service movie because it takes place right before A New Hope, and it's telling you this little tidbit. But the way it intertwines what we know and what we love, and then it even puts in the Heras and the Choppers in there in like these small ways that only you and I and people watching I Rebel would really appreciate. But to people that don't watch the show, it doesn't take away from it at all. And they just and Rogue One, like you said, it gets it pretty much as Rebels has been getting it. And they've just, the way they put in the Clone Wars stuff, you don't have to watch Clone Wars to appreciate the Clone Wars characters. And I mean, maybe the Ahsoka introduction lacks in the end of season 1 if you don't watch Clone Wars, because then you wouldn't know who Ahsoka is and you would be like, why do I care about Fulcrum? But aside from that one moment, they're pretty awesome. And if you don't know who the Clone Wars, if the clones are, then you haven't watched Star Wars.
Yeah, but that to me is that, like, little moments like that with Ahsoka and the clones. That's taking advantage of the fact that it's a sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's like the moment in Return of the Jedi when Luke walks into Jabba's palace and he's got the hood like that. A sequel has advantages you can exploit that an original piece does not. So yeah, absolutely exploit those advantages. Yeah. And we lost one more character. We lost Arinda Price. She probably won't be missed because she was kind of a big meanie, but that was a cool death. And like when you see her blow up in that dome as it rockets off, and she chose to stay there. I mean, Ryder was like, "Hey, look, the Empire's not doing well. Come on, you can come with us." And she's like, "No, I'm gonna stay here with my haircut, and I'm fine, thank you very much." And when I saw her blow up, after I had like a half second of just like feeling sorry for her because of the book that we read, because she just kind of spent her whole life being bullied by the Empire, and instead of trying to fight it, she was just like, well, I'm gonna be a bully too. And there's a split second as those explosions are going off around her where, like, if you freeze frame it, you just see her face. She's like, there's a split second where she's like, oh my god, I made the wrong choice. Like comic book guy in The Simpsons where he's like, oh, I've wasted my life, and then he dies. Like, there was that little just tiny moment, like right before the Flash covers her, and I was like, oh, Price, you could have been a star, honey. You could have been a star rebel, but instead and I'm still upset that her and Callus ended up killing Minister Tua back in season 2, because I feel like Tua was a nice lady and that ended up. But you know what? Price got her comeuppance.
Great death.
For all the.
I loved that moment. I loved it.
Yeah, and that was I felt even darker than the Rook death, and I wasn't expecting them to do that. I was very happy that I was happy that they didn't sugarcoat the deaths.
You know what? She's been a main villain for 4 years. From the start. Yeah, like she wouldn't, like, she was starting to become bigger than Callus before Callus turned. Like, she was kind of starting to move up on the ranks, right? So it was nice to see her finally get off. I just kicked my rabbit in the head. It was nice.
Oh no,
he's crazy. He's running around. Hi. It wasn't a kick. Animal rights. Leave me alone. I love my rabbit. It was nice though. Everybody got their due. It was awesome. Nobody was forgotten except for AB5.
That should have been like a post-credit scene where he's just alone on Yavin. He's like looking at a phone. I wonder if they'll call soon. That's it. Let's talk about Ezra Bridger. So he rejects the temptations of Emperor Palpatine. He finally does what he has been trying to do since episode 1, season 1, which is come to peace with the fact that his mother and father are dead. And even once he learned from Ryder Azadi that they were dead, you know, because for a while he thought they were still out there. Once he learned they were dead, it was still a big loss to him. And it wasn't until right now where he's standing on the other side of that glass, very Harry Potter-esque, and he's looking on the other side, talking to his mom and dad, and he just says, you know what, you'll always be a part of me, but I gotta move forward. And that was a beautiful moment. That hit me in the feels. And then just the victory of him turning and running through the Emperor's hologram and pulling everything down behind him. That was, to me, like, that's Ezra's finest hour. And now we leave off with him on a very strange note, because he obviously knew the whales were coming. Like, that was his plan, to go get them. And he also seemed to be fully aware of the fact that they were going to grab the ship with him in it and take him away. Now, my hypothesis in all this is that it is taking him to Thrawn's galaxy. What do you think?
Okay, I have to before I comment, why do you hypothesize that? Like, why would the whales take him there?
The reason I hypothesize it has to do with what we see in the epilogue, and I don't want to jump to that yet, but that's the reason why it exists in there.
Okay, because I agree with you. But I wanted to know if you had a reason for it other than that. Well, we speculated this on our preview show yesterday, that's where they were going to go. And it's and can't go into the epilogue, so take it away, Andrew.
There was actually a moment, because you speculated yesterday that you thought Ezra and Sabine were going to do the mouth thing that we call kissing. Yeah. And there was a moment where I was like, oh, James got it right.
I'm so happy
when they're on the ship. Yeah, same. But I think it was way back. It was back in A Fool's Hope, when they're on the ship and they're in the scout outfits and they're getting ready to go down the thing, and he's like, "Hey, I counting on you."
A pop-up ad played over mine for that, so I didn't see it.
Oh no!
I heard what was going on, but I couldn't see the image.
But it was like the first time in a long time that they've been just standing next to each other and like speaking like, quietly, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's gonna happen!" And then it didn't happen. But
it's set up.
Ezra's on the Chimera.
Sorry, it's set up.
It did.
Yeah.
It set up potentially a lot. But so yeah, Ezra's on the Chimera with Thrawn. He's on the bridge, and they have their altercation. Thrawn actually shot him.
Yes.
During that fight, it was very quick, but he shoots him. I couldn't tell if it was like in the back or the shoulder. Okay, so he's not like seriously hurt.
I think he's wounded.
But he is wounded.
Yeah, he shut the door.
He's favoring his arm. Oh my God! And like he kept shutting it, and they kept opening it. That was so cool. That was a great, like, again. The whole new canon is a chance to improve on things that might not have worked well in the past. And I've gone on record many times before saying the way Thrawn went out in those books was disappointing is not a strong enough word. And this, made up for that 100-fold. Like this, obviously Thrawn survived, but the final confrontation between the heroes and Thrawn was leagues ahead of what Timothy Zahn did back in the 90s. Like, leagues. I'm talking like The Room versus like Citizen Kane, leagues ahead.
Just by the way, everybody, you can voice your concerns to Andrew Fantasia at
hatemail.com. That should be an email service, right? It's like, I know people are going to send us, so just hatemail.com. Yeah, Thrawn got his climax. He finally got his climactic showdown with the heroes, and then the space whales took the ship away. And Ezra had that great moment where he told the group, "The Force will be with you," and then he's gone
in a flash.
And a flash of light, and we didn't see any inkling that. Like, there was no clues beforehand in anything Ezra said that, spelt out what he wanted to do afterwards. But I assume that the whales taking the ship away obviously was the plan, but where it's going, we can only speculate. But then there was now you're not a big crier. You don't really cry during movies and TV shows. I'm kind of the opposite. I get too emotional. I did not cry in this episode, surprisingly, but I came very close when afterwards, after all was said and done, and they're listening to Ezra's video message that he leaves for them, and he tells Zeb, "Hey, buddy, you can have the top bunk for now." I was close. I was just like, because it just takes you back. It takes you right back to the beginning when, you know, he was just a little street rat, and they took him in, and he and Zeb were like fighting like brothers, and then they argued over stupid little things, and now just how far they've come. That moment was a beautiful moment, and he gave his parting words to Sabine. And again, in that moment, I was thinking of you. I was like, is he going to tell Sabine, you know, like, I love you, or whatever, something? And I'm glad, again, that he did, because that was just a funny little thing that they kept doing in season 1, where he's like, hey, a cute girl is on this ship with me. I'm going to, you know, try to score. But it would have felt, I think, shoehorned in if they just threw in, like, him, like, I love you, Sabine Wren. And I'm glad they didn't do that.
Right from the beginning, I totally stopped thinking about the kiss. I think the kiss, like you said, their relationship, because the kiss was, it was half, I think it was being half facetious when I said it. I can't remember. I might have been completely honest. No, but look, everybody, there was so much like, Ray's parents are Ezra and Sabine, because in the first season he thought that she was a cute girl and was trying to approach, like, that's just all it was he was a teenager and she was a female around his age. That was it, you know, and that's, I think that was all, because their relationship, like you said, they never really had a moment together for like 2 years. Like, you know, like, they haven't spoken in like 2 years. I think this whole, you know, you can forget that, where it's not even friend zone anymore. It's just like, we work together, we respect each other. We might have feelings somewhere for each other, but we can never, you know, we're not Kanan and Hera. We can't take them on. And then, you know, when he leaves to go to Thrawn's ship, it's Sabine who paves the way for that to happen, because of their relationship that is not romantically in the lead. There's probably like a touch, but, you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think it's more, like you said, it's more a respect and like a good friend than anything else, and you can see that in the way Sabine reacts during Ezra's message. That's not the reaction of like, the love of my life is gone. It's the reaction of like, God, my friend is gone. What do I do? It's a very different but subtly different reaction, and I like that. I like you don't have to throw romance everywhere just because two pretty people are in a room together. And we got, I think, a nice send off in that message for Ezra, you know, talking to his friends, and he leaves the Jogan fruit for for Hera, and that was sweet too. You know, it, like, those little season 1 callbacks were great. But then we finish it off. Lothal is now, you know, the Empire's been driven away. The people of Lothal are like, not on my watch, and they storm the castle and they send those stormtroopers packing, and then we get the epilogue.
We get a remake of Episode 1.
Yeah,
with Sabine. Yeah, with Sabine in Ezra's space. It was
with this girl right here.
It was so perfect. As soon as I first shot, because, you know, I don't know if there was a commercial break. I think there was before it. I could only guess. But it came on, and I was just like, it was like, I'm like, well, first of all, it looks like the Fortress of Solitude. But I was like, I'm like, this is, like, they're just redoing season, and then there's Sabine with a new haircut, and you're like, they're doing season 1. They're doing it. How they all met. It's how they're going. I was like, frickin' get out of here. Get out of here.
I think that was the very first shot too, wasn't it? Was that tower?
Well,
so yeah,
it was until they added Vader and the Emperor in the
right.
But yeah, when it first aired, that was the first shot.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. I mean, endings are all about coming full circle, and you're right. She had a new haircut, looked different from this. I think Kanan cut her hair because I wasn't crazy about it, but that's okay. She got a new haircut, and she's the one who kind of spells out everything for us in a nice little. It was a nice little montage. I'm glad it did that. And she tells us pretty much everything that has happened since up to like the Battle of Endor,
which was surprising. I was like, when she was Battle of Endor, I was like, whoa, they jumped, like they jumped, which is cool.
And I'm so glad because that's what I wanted, right? I mean, in our review show on Patreon, I was like, I want to see like a Return of the Jedi-esque end montage where it's about, you know, how these people dealt with the end of the Empire. And I'm glad Filoni gave us that, because that's what I want. I wanted to see them, you know, reap the benefits of all this fighting they've been doing. And we got those beautiful little moments, you know, very little dialogue save for Sabine's narration. But first we got Lothal, which looks beautiful, and it's got that sparkling tower, like you said. It looked just like the Fortress of Solitude. Was that always there, or was that like a new thing? I'd never seen that before.
Isn't that where the ball was?
Oh, it was on top of that thing.
I think that's what it was. I think it was the ball was there.
Oh,
I'm probably
okay.
wrong, but yeah, because that was the first shot of the series. Is that, but like a more like original trilogy version, where this one was like a prequel trilogy version, right? That's how I associate it with. I don't know.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because that ball would have it would have covered it up. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I was like, they just built like a giant like Emerald City in that time. So Lothal is happy, everything's good, and then we got Zeb and Callus, the bromance of the century. Zeb and Callus jet off to Lyrasan, and that great moment where all the Lasats open the door, and it's pretty much like, see, you didn't wipe out my people, they're fine.
Loved it. And that's how we speculated pretty much right on the ball on that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was such a sweet moment, man. And like, you know, Zeb's just like, all right, buddy, let's, you know, we're gonna start a new life here. Like it was, that's what I think we all deep down wanted for these two characters, like that sort of closure on their, like not only their relationship, but the relationship between his people and Callus.
Yeah. And you know what? Because I'm sure people are like, oh, Zeb should have died or Callus should have died. But at the end of the day, does killing any of these characters off, how does that impact anything? Whereas I feel like this, you know, okay, I think those characters are done. We'll never see them again. That's where I am on them. They're done. We'll never see them again. And I think that because of that ending is more important than just, oh, Zeb died because he went after Rook, you know, or Callus died because of his hair. I think it's more powerful for the Star Wars universe for it to end the way it did than for them to die, even if it was a heroic death. Excuse me. And like we said yesterday, we saw that with Kanan already. We've had our heroic death. I thought this was much more powerful for Star Wars in general. That's how I took it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, you got to remember too, fighting the Empire was the big thing, and what we know now, since Last Jedi has come out, is that our other heroes there, Luke, Han, and Leia, when they finally beat the Empire, it wasn't happily ever after for them. You know, some more crazy stuff happened. With fighting the Empire was also the big deal with Zeb and Callus, but the difference is, and I think that's why it was so important for this montage to take place after Endor, was they got their happily ever after once the war was over. It's like, okay, you know, if they had just ended it without that and been like, and we'll keep fighting, hopefully we'll blow up that Death Star soon, it's like, all right, whatever. But because we got to see how the end of the war affected them, that's what made it as powerful as it is, as you're saying. Like, it's not a matter of just I died in battle, or a matter of we'll keep fighting. It's a matter of we fought, we conquered, now let's go, you know, let's go live our lives.
And it was,
and we couldn't have gotten that.
Yeah, and it was also important, I don't know if we talked about this yesterday too, the way they distinguished this victory. This was not a victory for the rebellion, this was a victory for the Ghost Crew. That was the
exactly.
Because while it's happening, I'm like, oh man, are they not going? And then Zeb's like, this is not the rebellion. We are, like, the rebellion didn't help us. We don't need them later. I was like, okay, you found a way
Yeah.
kind of, it wasn't perfect, but you're telling this story. You can't take away from that opening crawl. You respect that, obviously. So this was a way for them to kind of be like, yeah, we did it. No, but we did it. So I was at first I was a little like, well, that's, and I was like, whatever. Like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, the rebellion was present without being present, which was kind of cool.
It is a fair point that they, the whole season they kept harping on the fact that the rebellion's not going to help them. They kept telling us that. So, I mean, it wasn't like something they made up at 0 hour. The whole season they said, nobody's helping us. We're alone, and that was it.
And I think that's strengthened by the fact that, say for the first 2 episodes, this whole season they never leave Lothal even once.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, look at seasons 2 and 3. They're hopping around planet. How many times did they be like, we have a new planet this week? But that's not the case in season 4. Now it was all about Lothal and like we have to save our home. So the Zep Callus thing, it was the perfect ending for those two. Exactly. I couldn't have been happier with that. And then we get Hera. We get Hera and Chopper, and this was the second moment when Andrew almost cried. Oh my gosh! First of all, let's get this little bit of housekeeping under the way. We got the spoken confirmation from Sabine that Hera, Chopper, and Rex fight at the Battle of Endor. And I wish you had been in the room with me when we were watching this, because I feel like as soon as she said Captain Rex fought there too, I feel like we would have just both turned to each other and been like, "Hey, it's confirmed! It's confirmed!" Like, yeah. He put that speculation to bed. He put the stupid flip flopping to bed, and he's like, "No, that's Rex."
Yeah.
So
well, not necessarily. That still doesn't have to be Rex. Rex could have been somebody else. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. It's Rex if you want it to be Rex, and that is what I love about it. Because again, if you watch Rebels and you watch Jedi, you're like, and if you don't, it's a nobody in the background. Like, you just don't pay attention, and I loved that.
Yeah, it was. Oh, that was so wonderful. That was such a just nice giddy moment. And then Hera is flying her ship, and who's sitting next to her is a little boy with green hair. And at first, for like a split second, when I saw that kid, my mind started racing in weird directions because I was like, that kid looks like Ezra. And then I remembered, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, Kanan was a thing too. So then, 2 and 2 was put together. He's got, did he have, like, did he look Twi'lek at all, or was he just fully human? Just green hair. Okay, that's cool. I like that.
And did you get his name?
That opens up. Jason.
Jacen.
Jason Soto. Yeah, I should have checked that. Oh no, he wouldn't have been in the credits because he didn't say anything. But yeah, Jason Syndulla. And when she says, like he's the new memory, Spectre 7. Oh, that's just those words, Spectre 7. That's what got me. And like she's got this reminder of Kanan now, and you and I were speculating earlier, like, okay, when did this conception happen? Because it didn't look like there was a lot of time for anything like that, and so I'm assuming that it was like the night before she got kidnapped when they kissed for the first time, the night before like Rook took her back in November, because that's the only time I can think of where they would have had, a chance to.
Here's a question, maybe you know this. The timeline of this season between that and what we saw, was it a month, maybe?
Like from the beginning of the season, or from
Rook grabbing her?
Oh, that's a good point. That's very, maybe like a week, because she was being tortured by Price, and I feel like if you were tortured for like a straight month,
no.
I
mean from
damage.
That moment when she gets rescued to the Battle of Lothal.
Oh, from when she gets rescued. I would say yeah, maybe like no more than a week.
Okay, yeah. So she wouldn't even
Like
she wouldn't even know during these episodes. Like she wouldn't have any.
No.
Like, and so I'm just thinking time wise, but she would have fought in the Battle of Endor with a child, like with a
She would have fought Endor with yeah, there'd be a baby there. Well, actually, yeah, she would have had the child already by Endor.
Yeah, and then, like,
the Battle of Scarif, she might have been, showing.
which is weird. Like why would she fly a ship if she...
Well, what worries me is she was probably pregnant while Price was torturing and drugging her.
That's why the kid has green hair.
The Jedi Knight episode. That's why the kid has green hair. Don't smoke or be tortured, ladies. If you got a bun in the oven, just sit tight. Let other people do the heavy lifting for you. Try not to get kidnapped. But yeah, we got this little kid with the green hair, Jason Syndulla, aka Spectre 7. I don't know about you, James, but I think the odds are pretty good that we will see Jason again.
Yeah, I think it'll be a missed opportunity if we don't. Why introduce him at all? I think he... We said this yesterday in our preview show too, where like Rebels is a side note to the saga films, and like Rogue One's a side note, and all these movies are side notes to it. So things that happen in them don't have to be addressed in them whatsoever. And I think it would be a missed opportunity for Jason to appear, not in a movie necessarily, but in another animated show or comics. Because look, he's the son of a great pilot and a Jedi. There's going to be something to him.
What if he's one of the Knights of Ren?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. His name is Jason. And that's the thing, like the Knights of Ren, if it were to be the Knights of Ren, he could be no name in the movies, but we could see his downfall, which would be so sad and depressing because we've known him from childhood. So I just think, they named him Jason for a reason. We'll see how it's spelled. I think it's spelled Jacen though. The way they work, why wouldn't you? And look, he's the son of Kanan, who's level-headed, and Hera, who is Han Solo, basically. And what did Leia and Han produce?
Exactly. And I mean, the timeline adds up. He's around 4 years old after the Battle of Endor. Hera is like a full-on rebel, so she knows about Luke. She could have, knocked on his door one morning and been like, "Hey, Mr. Skywalker, I want you to meet my son. He's been lifting his alphabet blocks with his mind since he was 2 years old. You want to, his dad was this Jedi. You want to maybe, teach him some things." And Luke's like, "Yeah, I'll bring him to my academy with my nephew. What could happen?" And I think there's a lot of seeds to be planted there. But the Jason thing was beautiful. I wish we could have watched this in the theater at Celebration instead of that premiere. Oh. Because just imagine that reaction when they showed Jason in that scene. People would have lost their minds.
Well, they showed it Friday to, I think, critics and people on Disney XD on Friday in a theater. And yeah, to be in that theater would have been, what a moment. Yeah, like Jason, like you said with the Bo-Katan, it's just Jason Syndulla. Everyone would have been like, "Ah!" Yeah. What? Just so, damn, man. Just so well done. Well done.
that was like, I keep thinking back to when I was in high school. We went to this festival in the States, in Lincoln, Nebraska, where we got to watch a bunch of high school plays perform the high schools would perform their plays at this festival. And one of the plays was this show called Ragtime. And there's a character in the show, it's about, I think it takes place in the 30s or whatever, and there's it's about like racism in America in the 30s or whatever. And one of the characters, he's an African American guy. He's one of the main characters. And spoilers for this play, he dies towards the end of the play. Oh. And I'm sitting in this packed theater. Everybody's watching this play, and they're getting really into it. And at the very end, the final scene, the characters are all like coming out and describing kind of like this epilogue in Rebels, what has happened to everybody. And the main female character, towards the end, she turns to like the side of the stage. She's like, "Come on," and she calls out the name of that character, that African American guy who died. and out comes this little like 4-year-old boy running onto the stage, and like he runs into this girl's arms, and everybody in the theater like lost their collective shit, and like they stood up, and like people are like bawling and clapping and stuff, and I can just picture that happening in this situation. Like if you had a room full of Star Wars nuts like us, like we had in Celebration, when that camera pans over and Hera's sitting next to like little junior green-haired Kanan, I feel like the energy in that room would have been like inimitable. Like you could not compare.
Yeah.
I wish we could have seen it live. But then we get the final scene in this wonderful epilogue with, again, this beautiful lady right here. And she's got like a nice mural that she painted. It looks like the opening credits of Fresh Prince, this nice big wall full of graffiti that she just had her way with. And she painted the Ghost Crew. And then we see Ahsoka Tano once again.
But like there was the animation style of Ahsoka she was obviously older, but it was almost more Clone Warsy in style. I thought like she looked almost like a painting in a lot of ways too. Like there was something different about her representation in that shot. And the way Sabine looked, like, you know, Sabine looked different, but Ahsoka, like, there was something about it where it looked like a sketch almost. Like, it was gorgeous artwork on that one.
Yeah, she, like, her attire, she looked like a priestess.
Yeah.
Like, she's in this, like, white robe, and she's got this staff. I can't remember what was it. I think there was, like, a circle at the top of it or something, but she's holding the staff. Like, she is some next level stuff that we don't know yet. Like, that is some... Whether she's like a guardian of the wills or something, she found something out, and now she is singing a whole new set of gospel that I don't think has anything to do with the Jedi Order anymore. But her and Sabine have been dedicating themselves to finding Ezra, and it looks like Ahsoka knows where he is, and the two of them jet off in this very sexy red ship to go find him. And that's how Rebels reaches its end.
I can't wait for season 5.
The curtain closes. I know. Oh, too soon, James.
Now I'm crying.
Now
I'm crying.
This is why. This scene right here is why I think that Ezra ended up in Thrawn's galaxy, because the whole thing with Ezra, who constantly saying to Sabine, like, I'm counting on you, and she's like, what? Counting on me for what? And it turns out he's counting on her to come find him. If he was just on some other random planet in our universe, I don't think he would have made that big a deal of it. I think it would have just been like, hey, I'm on, Bespin, come get. But he is somewhere deeply unreachable by normal means. That's the impression I got, where it's like, I need you to come find me, but it's not just going to be a matter of, turning on your LoJack and, like, getting my signal. This is going to be a journey. And, like, so much so that you need, like, wise priest Ahsoka, who has reached, like, level 12 force affinity to really, get down to business. So that to me, more than anything else, signals that something is happening out there in the far reaches. We know Thrawn is collecting people like Eli Vanto to go back to his planet. And now this, to me, this gives me an idea that the origins of the First Order are part of this story. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. My head went right to the unknown regions, the beginning of the First Order, I didn't. Snoke's homeworld wasn't necessarily, or Snoke's homeworld, Thrawn's homeworld wasn't necessarily on it was there, but it wasn't my forefront because I was like, okay, so why would it be Thrawn's homeworld? But yeah, that makes sense that she would kind of know to go to that place. But yeah, it would be like, I think a lot of people will speculate that the next animated series will be Sabine and Ahsoka on this mission. I don't think that's what we're going to get from the next animated series, though, because it almost feels too obvious, and it's more of a spin-off than an original show. So, I mean, it could be, and I would totally be down for watching that, but Yeah, I think that the origins of the First Order are tied into Ezra, Thrawn, and was it the Eclipse, the ship from Aftermath?
Yes.
So it's all tied. I think it's
Yeah.
all tied in. They're all somewhere. There is. Look, we know that there is a threat in the unknown regions that Thrawn was worried about. We know that Snoke was in the unknown regions. We got that from the Last Jedi novelization. We know that he's been out there for a long time. We know that Snoke is not supposed to be the leader of the First Order. So Ezra's Snoke is basically what I'm saying. Ezra. I got a shout out to Austin who said Ezra is still DJ, and being out in the unknown regions for so long is where he got his stutter. That really makes sense. No, I look. There's something going on there, and I'm curious to see where we're going to get, what we're going to get from it. Like, is it going to be a novelization, another series? Because this Disney streaming service is coming, and they're going to get content pumping out. And is this going to be something on there? Is it a one-off? I would be totally down with like an hour-long special or 2 hours, whatever, on this. Or is it done and we just have to be like, is it done and we just have to use our imagination and be like, Sabine and Ahsoka went out there and maybe they found Ezra, maybe they didn't. My feeling on it, however, is Ahsoka means so much to Filoni that he killed her off, brought her back, and then brought her back. Because she disappears for years after she returns with Ezra, right? She disappears until after Return of the Jedi, right? That's when the Sabine stuff's taking place, is after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, the whole epilogue is right after the Battle of Endor.
Well, I think we see, I don't know, the Zeb stuff might be earlier. Like the epilogue, the timeline might be like just scattered to just fit things.
True.
But I think her stuff that we see is like 5 to 10 years after Rebels ends, like, after that. So, like, my question is, where's Ahsoka during it all? Because we talked about it. She's not the kind of person that would just let evil win. She would be there at the forefront. She would help, even though she's not a Jedi. I'd be like, she's not a Jedi, I know. But her character is not in that. So, like you said, she's something next level now. And that is fascinating as well. Like, is she a Bendu? Is she the Bendu now? And that's why she's not involved? She's like, I am. Because, don't forget, she's died multiple times. The daughter brought her back. The convor is there on the painting on the Jedi temple. There's an association there. She got brought back in that temple through everything that's happened to her in the Clone Wars. That's how she came back. There's something more for her. So yeah, she could be a guardian of the will. Oh man, so many. This is what is so brilliant about this finale, is it wrapped it up with a neat little bow and then said, here's 20 more questions. But they're not 20 questions that irritate you. They're 20 questions that are brand new and fascinating. And that's the difference, is that they're not irritating because they weren't like, oh man, but in season 2 you asked this question and they didn't resolve it. This was like, these are just new things you can think about because we finished that story. And that's how I felt with the Battlefront 2 story mode, right? Whereas it ended right before the Kylo Ren thing, and then that Kylo Ren was just a little epilogue to like, this was done obviously a bit better, but you know what I mean? Like it's like, this is a PS, and that last bit was, okay, we'll wrap it all up. PS, here's 5 more questions, because it's Star Wars. It can't just be finished.
Yeah. And that's like they're aware that there's going to be more stories in the future, so make the questions be about not what we just saw, but what we could see. And I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned the streaming service. We keep talking about like, what's the next cartoon? Is it, between Jedi and Force Awakens like we all thought, or now is it about this thing with Sabine and Ahsoka? But we got to start thinking outside the box. Who's to say it's just going to be one cartoon this time? They have more money now than they ever have. They have more, people behind the scenes working on it. Who's to say Filoni's not going to be like, okay, here's treatments for 2 shows down the middle. You guys take this one. You guys take this one. We've got, Disney Flicks or whatever the hell it's going to be called, and we're going to stream it on there. And Canada won't get it till 2024. But that's like that's the beauty of it now, and it's just like with these new movies coming out, everybody's like, ooh, a trilogy is coming out. Well, like, who's to say it's a trilogy? I mean, that's fine, but why can't it be 4 if that's what it calls for? Why can't it be 2 if that's what it calls for? Why can't it be 6 if that's what it calls for? They can do anything they want now. You know, just serve the story. Don't serve traditional release schedules for things. You know, yeah, Ahsoka is again a big question mark, but in a good way. And I think that every time we see her now, she is just becoming one of the most fascinating Star Wars characters in the, like, ever. And that's, you know, that's so impressive considering where she came from, considering how she was almost Jar Jar 2. For a lot of people, like, there was a lot of hate. I have an Ahsoka figure too. I should have brought her, but I didn't feel like
playing favorites. Right, I
should have just like, I'm gonna stage that whole their whole journey with action figures, and we're gonna film that. And that's gonna be a Patreon show. It's called Andrew's Action Lights Camera Action Figures. But that's a story that I would love to see in any way, shape, or form. I've always been on board for an Ahsoka comic. I think that would be really fun. Whether we get this as a comic or as a book or as a TV show, I'm on board. Like, sold. I'm watching the Adventures of Sabine and Ahsoka. Period. And I will, like, anything Filoni does next. All I have to say is, sir. Like, I don't know about you, but now I kind of wish he was writing Episode 9.
I wish he was in that room with Abrams. Get in frame.
Oh, no.
Go to your left. Go to your left. No, I said this, I think on a preview show, so only Patreons heard it, but Joshua Lucas from the Dead of Nerds gave me a phone call, like, immediately after The Last Jedi. 10-minute phone call, cost me $23. Oh, Canada. And at the time, I liked The Last Jedi more than he did. Now I think he's like, he likes it more than I, whatever. Who cares? And I was like, you know, I liked it. I go, but Filoni, because what it was, you know, all the stuff with Luke talking to Rey about the Force is more than just lifting rocks and all that stuff. We saw that with Kanan and Sabine a year prior, and I thought it was handled better in Rebels. I just did, and I know it's weird that I like The Last Jedi and I can count its flaws, but like, and look, I thought it was done okay in The Last Jedi, and I think because of what I saw in Rebels kind of affected my view of it in The Last Jedi, to be completely honest, because I thought the Kanan and Sabine stuff was brilliant, and I said, look, maybe Filoni needs to be the guy, like the overseer of it all. And I'm not saying he needs to be in charge of Lucasfilm, but we're going to do a video on this eventually, so we won't go too much into it. But yeah, like, he gets it, he knows how to tell a cohesive story, and you're just enthralled in it. And like, even look, like we said, there are episodes that are not good in Rebels. There are things that happen in Rebels that you're like, ugh. It's a TV show. You're always gonna. I can't think of one TV series where it's been flawless from start to finish. I think Breaking Bad was pretty close, but you know, there's always a couple hiccups along the way. And what he did with his hiccups, when he said, yeah, that was a hiccup, but the Space Whale's coming back in a big way. Do not worry about it. Like, yeah. And that's the genius of it. And you know, when he gets to, and he plans it out. You know, and he says when he was writing these episodes, he would storyboard it, and just, like, you know, just spend so much time storyboarding, working on the dialogue, making sure it was all fluid. When I was just, there's so much attention to detail, so much care. That, yeah, man, I wish Filoni was like. The thing is, he's not a sexy name. He's not J.J. Abrams. I don't think Rian Johnson's a sexy name, but you started with J.J. Abrams, and you're like, oh, this indie guy is coming in, you know. And not to take away from what they did at all, but like Filoni, like he's not a name. He's not gonna draw anybody to be like, oh, Star Wars is coming back, and it's Dave Filoni. That's exciting. Even though,
well, I don't think like directing wise, yeah, keep JJ. But if it was Filoni with JJ in the writing room as opposed to
Terrio,
the Argo guy, like Argo was great, but like clearly, who knows more about how Star Wars works?
That's the
Argo guy or Filoni.
But that's the problem is, does it matter how Star Wars works in Episode 9? And I'm not saying that from my perspective. That's true. I'm saying that from the Lucasfilm Disney as a whole perspective. Like, does it matter how Star Wars works? Because it does not. The way I see these new movies is it really almost doesn't. Because then you, like I said, when you watch Rebels, the way they handle the same issues is just done in this way where you're like, you can tell who understands the universe better in the way they handle those little moments. And again, not to take away, like the movies are the movies, and the movies are actually all that really matters in the long run for the majority of fans, is what I mean. So I don't know, like like if Filoni wrote it with Abrams though, but Abrams wants to turn left and Filoni says you got to turn right, Filoni's the one out the door, not Abrams, you know. So I don't think it really matters. But if Abrams is your honcho, your head honcho, then, and I'm not saying you can, like, I don't even know if he wants to do live action, so I'm not arguing any of that either. But anyway, this is a video for another time.
Yeah, but like I said, there's since 1977, since this all came about, Star Wars has had 2 endings.
You could almost argue,
and this
Sith.
one,
it kind of ends.
Sith was no, I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't count Sith. It was, I can't find the words of what it was, but it wasn't an ending. It was a transition, I guess, more than anything else. But between the way Return of the Jedi ended, both of them, and the way this ended, this was clearly a stronger, he has a stronger idea of how you end an epic saga. So I can't wait to see what other endings he gives us moving forward. So before we wrap up our final episode of I Rebel, we're going to play a little bit of Never Tell Me the Odds. James, what are the odds that Jason Syndulla joins Luke's academy?
Personally, I want to say 90. Realistically, full Brock.
Wow.
No, I think it's really cool, but I don't know where anyone's head's at other than Filoni's. And if he's not in charge of that story, and let's say J.J. Abrams decided to give them all names in the last month and a half that he wrote the screenplay, I don't think Jason Syndulla is in the Knights of Ren, because this was also written, a year ago, 2 years ago. So that's how I feel on it. Like I said, personally, give me 90% and make him a Knights of Ren. Let him go full Sith, or not Sith, fake Sith. But just the way things are going with the story group and stuff, we'll see him again, Knights of Ren, full Brock.
I'm going to go part of the Academy, 82%. And Knight of Ren, I will say 45%. Because I feel like there's too much good upbringing for that boy.
Yeah, sorry, I took Knights of Ren when you said Academy. Some of Brock.
And let's say for the final one here, what are the odds that her story with Ahsoka is told in another animated television show, or another cartoon form that's not, a book or a comic or a movie?
Sabina's story with Ahsoka told in anime form. Look, I think that is so cool, but man, that is a tough one, because immediately you're like, well, that's the next show. But I think we've said that about a few things now, and we're never right. And I think it's almost too obvious, and it's too soon. Maybe they go another direction. I think we'll see it. I'm gonna go 52%, so I don't go full Brock again, but I'm close enough. Look, like you said, the Disney streaming site's gonna need content. This is the only thing is that I've heard the Rebels ratings are not the greatest. So is it a surefire hit if you throw that on there? They're going to want Star Wars content, animated and live action. I would guess you'd want animated on there. So I'm going to go 52%.
This is tough. I think that not so much you, but Ahsoka is sort of strongest. Like her strongest use is in the world of cartoons. I mean, maybe 12 people read that Ahsoka book, and not many people remembered it. And Ashley Eckstein is always like, she's ready to go. Like whenever Dave says like we'll have a, like she's ready and willing. So I will say, just because of that, because of you know, he's got a good relationship with Ashley and a good relationship with Tia. Like Dave and Tia seem like they're tight, and she seems like she's always on board to, you know, to bring Sabine to the next level. So I'm gonna say that that is going to be seen in cartoon form. Whether or not the whole cartoon is about that, that's a different story, but that story will be seen in cartoon. I'm gonna go 85%. That sounds about right. So Rebels has come to an end. Take a bow, Sabine. Thank you. That is the end of the story, and that is the end of I Rebel. I think, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody, all the subscribers, all the Patreon homies, everybody out there who's watched this show with us since last summer. I mean, like since back in the days when you would come over here and we'd sit in front of my little table in my living room and record. It has been a ride. Those 4 seasons flew by, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
I can't believe it's over, and I'm actually going to be suffering from withdrawal, because there's going to be a longer wait between this and the next animated show than movies. So that's kind of sad. Unless they already started working on the other animated show.
That would be nice. We are, of course, for the Patreon people out there, you are going to be getting Cloning Around, which is going to be just like this, but with the Clone Wars. So at least we have that to look forward to, and we can dive right into clony, Mortisy, Kit Fisto-y goodness on that show. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will be watching it in chronological order, not in air date order, because chronological order is more fun. But that is it. That is I Rebel. It's over. The rebellion wins. It was built on hope, and it was a fool's hope, but it was a new hope. I guess there's nothing left to say except this is a rebellion, isn't it?
I rebel.
Isn't it? There we go. I rebel, baby. Thanks for watching, everybody. May the force of others be with you.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.